Hey, welcome to the channel. Today's pretty exciting because we have seen the R2 reveal. It was on March 7th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And if you didn't get to look at it, we're going to go through a lot of what we learned, as well as some things that we found out after the reveal, actually. Some little details. So let's take a look at that. So for those of you who don't know who Rivian is, it is a car company in the US and they make all electric vehicles. Rivian is out of Normal, Illinois, where they manufacture currently 2 automobiles. Rivian first announced the R1T and the R1S, so a pickup truck and a SUV, which is a 3-row SUV, and they started producing the R1T back in 2022 and eventually started producing the R1S in 2023. Now they have a lot of vehicles out there. There's actually a lot on the road. You can see those. They're very nice vehicles, good luxury, performance, eco-friendly, and all electric. Rivian tends to be a little bit more of an adventure styling. Think of like Patagonia and things like that, REI. That is where Rivian's really going after. Rivian's kind of like Tesla in the fact that they offer over-the-air updates, new features added often. They take a lot of customer responses and they make improvements. They have cameras and things like that and gear lock. So they do a lot of the same things Tesla has done to make them successful. Since they are a new car company, they also do sell directly to consumers. So they have only a few spaces around the country, and then they have around 50 or something like that service centers. And then the way they cover everyone else is they have mobile service with their vans. Rather than the consumer market, Rivian also makes a delivery van, which they partnered with Amazon, and they sold a lot of these vans to Amazon. They're all electric delivery vans, and now they've even started selling those vans to other customers. So they're actually doing really well in that market for the fleets. Ever since the R1T launched, we started hearing rumblings of an R2 vehicle. So we didn't know exactly what that was going to be. Were they going to make it kind of like their R1S and the R2S, have 2 different trucks and SUVs all under the R2 badge? And we've gotten little hints here and there about what it was going to be. Smaller, cheaper car, because the R1S and the R1T typically ran around the $70,000 to $100,000 price range. Now we have actually met the R2 as it's been revealed. And so what we know is the R2 is a 5-seat SUV. So it's really going after the best segments of the automotive world, which is that mid-size SUV market, not necessarily crossover, but slightly crossover to full-size SUV, as kind of competing against the Tesla Model Y, which was the best-selling car in the world last year out of all automobiles in the world. So vehicles that this car is going to actually compete with are going to be the 4Runner, Ford Bronco Sport, the Chevy Trailblazer, but then it's going to also offer a large amount of off-road capability. So we'll actually be able to not only compete with the 4Runner, but also things like the actual full-size Ford Bronco and other vehicles like that, the Jeep Wrangler, and the off-road capability packages. So let's talk about its size and specs a little bit. This vehicle is right at a length of 185.6 inches. It's 75 inches to both ends of the mirrors, 66.9 inches in height, which puts it about 3 inches taller than a Model Y, 115.6 inches of wheelbase. And it's got one of the best approach angles and departure angles out there, as like I said, they make their cars to be really off-road capable. So as you can see though, it is a good bit smaller than the bigger sister, the R1S, in all dimensions around, so it will be smaller. But compared to the Model Y, which was the best-selling car, it is about 3 inches taller, slightly shorter in length, and it has a much boxier style, and so you actually would probably feel like you get more headroom in the back seat. And what they did is they said that they focused a lot on the front 2 rows, the driver passenger seat, as well as the back seats for passenger, so that's headroom, space, and they really tried to make it feel comfortable. So we'll see how that is once we actually get in these vehicles. So some of the things that we learned. First, price. This vehicle is going to start at $45,000 US, which is phenomenal. We also found out after the review that they are going to try and meet the requirements to get the federal tax credits here in the U.S., which is $7,500, which brings that price down to $37,500 for the base variant. So talking about the variants, what we know as of right now is there's going to be 3 motor variants. There's going to be a rear-wheel drive single motor, a dual motor all-wheel drive, and a tri-motor all-wheel drive specification. What else we found out was that there's going to be 2 battery sizes. There's going to be a small pack and a large pack, which sometimes is referred to as a small short range and long range pack. So based on that, what we can expect, the $45,000 variant is going to be the single motor rear-wheel drive small battery pack. And what we found out is, so that will be $45,000. And all the motor variants get 300 plus miles of range except for the small battery single motor variant. So what we found out, and we kind of got this a little bit of a hint from MKHB in his YouTube video, that the short range single rear-wheel drive variant will get roughly 270 miles of range, which is still a really great value. It's more range than what the Tesla Model Y gets for their single short range variant. So to me, that's really good. We do have to remember these cars don't come out for 2 more years. So there's still development to get those ranges and the battery chemistries, and there's no telling what other electric cars will have by then. So based on that, we can expect 6 trims. I would imagine there's a possibility some of those other motor configurations won't allow the short range battery, and if I had to take my guess, that's going to be the 3 motor. But what we know is we can say that the rear wheel drive is going to have a short range pack and a long range pack. That long range pack would be over 300 miles of range. The dual motor all wheel drive will have probably both the short range and the long range pack based on what we know with the R1 series. And then the tri-motor, or more of their performance variant of the R2, will probably only have the long range pack, but we do know Rivian likes to give a lot of options, so it may be possible that the small battery is provided in that, but we know the quad motor does not provide their lowest battery pack for the R1T, so there's a good chance that it's only going to get the one, which gives you 5 total variants. The performance, which would be on the tri-motor version or their performance R2, is going to be 0 to 60 in less than 3 seconds, which is faster than the Model Y performance. Now, since this is an SUV, it's not only going to be used for utility, but it's also going to be used as a family hauler, grocery getter, around the neighborhood, and things like that. The storage of the R2 is going to be really great. So as you can see, the front trunk will open up, and it's got a very long and a fairly deep looking front there for you to store things like groceries, bags, camera gear, dog stuff, so many different things. There's also supposed to be a bike rack that you can buy as an accessory that is supposed to be able to actually fit into this front trunk, which I think is pretty awesome, because if you do a lot of riding, you don't want to leave it on the back. That's a great place to store it because it's easily accessible and it gets it out of the way. And then, of course, you got the rear of the vehicle. Since it is an SUV, it has this large swinging back door that can open up and provide you a fairly squared off interior, similar to what you would see in a Ford Bronco. What it reminds me of is the early Ford Explorers. It had that squared off interior, and they might have been smaller SUVs, but you had a lot of space there to put things because they weren't all, angled in. There will also be underfloor storage in the rear of the vehicle, like most electric cars have, so you'll have an additional storage compared to what you would in a regular ICE SUV. As far as utility goes, the rear glass will actually come down powered, and so you can open that back glass similar to what you would see on a 4Runner, and you can actually store things hanging out of the glass. Pets can ride back there, dogs and stuff, and stick their head out. It also provides a really nice breeze in nice climate areas where you can roll the windows down and the wind just kind of goes through the car and out the back. They also showed the rear glasses, how they opened up kind of angling out, and we're not sure if that's going to meet production. There's kind of a hint from Electrek that that might not make it to production, but we'll see. It's very 90s again. It reminds me back to those Ford Explorers and many other like minivans and things like that. The glass you'd push it and twist it and it would push out and then it would lock, right? And so these are automatic motored versions of that, but get a little bit more airflow out the back of the sides there. We'll see if that meets it. It's got a real 90s vibe to it though, and I really like it. Another thing about the rear glass on the second row of the back seat, right? The rear glass does actually go all the way down, which is really nice, so you can stick your arm out the window or whatnot, not pinch it and different things like that. So that's a nice feature that you don't see on a lot of SUVs these days. That used to be a pretty normal feature. So I'm a big fan of that. Somebody who had a Jeep Cherokee, that was a nice feature in the back seat. Another part of the utility of the R2 is the fact that all the seats fold down flat. So not only do the rear seats fold down to be flat, but also the front driver's seat and front passenger seat will fold all the way down. And you can actually you can sleep in it for camping, or imagine picking up a really long lumber from the hardware store, and you would typically put down your rear seats, and you would stick that lumber through the center of the two front seats. Well, with the R2, you could put your passenger seat down, and you could stack lumber all the way up to the dash from the back gate. And if it's even longer than that, you know, think like 12 foot and things like that. You know, as long as it's not too wide, 4 foot wide or something, and it can fit in the rear passenger seat, you could stick it all the way to the dashboard and then hang it out the back glass, because the glass folds down, and so you can get a really long piece of lumber. I think that's a thing that people are going to really use, and it's a big utility item that I think is being under pushed right now. To me, that's one of the coolest features, and I just really see the utility of that. Some things that weren't shown was a rear shelf that is in the rear door. So when that window is down, there's a shelf in the door that you can actually pull up, and you can rest drinks on, maybe for tailgating or whatever, sitting in the back, drinking beer. You know, it's just another feature that is Rivian putting in neat features that everybody wants to use. And then with Rivian, they've got this trademark they started with the R1 series, where there's a flashlight in the driver's door and it pops out. It's powered by one single cell. Yeah, so the flashlight has one single cell from the vehicle itself. And this is kind of something they started with the R1 series. It sits in the door and it's always charging, so you always have a full battery flashlight right in your driver's door in case you need it, you're camping, whatever reason, right? It's utility. Actually, on the passenger side of the R2 that wasn't shown in the reveal stream was the fact that on the passenger side they also have a single cell, but it's a backup power bank that you can use to charge phones or whatever else, right? It's a small amount of battery, but it's got a USB-C on it, so you can back up and carry up, plug into your phone, Bluetooth speaker, whatever it is that you want. So for the interior, Rivian has this very eco-friendly, refined, very just nice cork and different recycled material interior, leather seats that are vegan leather, of course. They didn't put a glove box in the R1 series, and a lot of their customers kind of complained about that, so they kind of double put down on this. They created the R2 to have two different glove boxes. So they're going to be two glove boxes, one in the center and then one where the glove box normally is, so that you double your storage. Again, Rivian just really finding ways to really create storage and utility in their vehicles. It's one of the things they do the best at. There's going to be two large wheels on the steering wheel with haptic feedback to really control a lot of features. There's a screen behind the behind the steering wheel, so you will have your display there showing your speed and navigation and different things. And then you've got a large landscape screen in the center right on your dash, kind of like you would see in a lot of vehicles these days, with really great software that's all done in-house at Rivian, similar to how Tesla does. Really good features. It's such a good brand, and the interior is just really nice for this car. They did also tell us that they are using a new battery chemistry for the R2. It's going to be a 4695 cell, which is slightly taller than the Tesla cell, the 4680, by about 15 millimeters. This pack is going to be laid out, so it actually will be laid out structurally in the bottom of the vehicle, and then it's going to be a single layer, and basically the top of the pack is going to be the floorboard of the car. So, you know, they did this to save on cost and manufacturing processes, also give you more room in this smaller structure. We don't know if they're going to do similar changes to the updated R1 series. I'm sure we'll find out about that in the next year to 2 years. But the R2 will be probably the first one really to see this. The next really big thing, which we kind of already knew about from Rivian, is that they currently are offering adapters so you can charge on NACS, or North American Charging Standard, which is basically the Tesla connector and plug. And so this, we knew R2 is going to be coming out with that integrated into the vehicle. There'll be no adapters needed unless you're going to charge on CCS or Combined Charging Standard, which is where it came from. Now that they're moving to the NACS, they can actually charge at superchargers, no problem, and any other chargers with Max. There is a little bit of a hot topic with where the location of the port is. It's on the very low back right side of the vehicle, which is a little bit of, a concern because the superchargers in all Teslas have their chargers on the back left side of the rear car. So in theory, if the Rivian R2 was to back into a supercharger, it may take up an additional spot in order to be close enough for those version 3 cords. But Tesla does have a version 4 cabinet coming out with larger cables to kind of accommodate for that, but there's already so many version 3s out there. It will be an issue if it is there, so it'll be interesting to see if they make any changes. A lot of people are wondering why they're doing that, and so Electrek was able to get a little bit of an answer from RJ, but not a full answer really. They basically said that they moved it from the left front of the vehicle to the rear right of the vehicle because they already have current customers who have charging in their garages and in their driveways that are set up to charge on the left front. And so instead of pulling forward into their charging, they would just back in, and it would be in the same location with respect to where their current chargers are. Also, Rivian has their own charging network that they're really deploying out quickly, similar to Tesla, and they're going to be changing it all to NACS as well. But they're in national parks typically, in these places that are really difficult to get to, and then they're also in these larger metropolitan areas, and they're filling out their map of where their charging stations are. And really, if you look at the map, it's very similar to where Tesla was probably about 4 years ago when I bought my Model 3. So based on my experience, there's plenty of them out there. Not to mention they can now charge on Tesla. They can charge on any of the other second-party charging stations. So there's going to be unlimited amount of charging stations for these Rivians. But again, the reason they put it there is because they already have charging stations that are out there that are in that location, where it would be easy to back in and plug in like they would on the R1S pulling forward. Some other things they talked about with the R2 was some of the tech that's in the vehicle. So they're expecting this car to actually have, self-driving capabilities similar to an advanced cruise control, where it'll be able to steer and stop and go kind of like Tesla. Not necessarily full self-driving or anything like that, but it's got a technology suite of 11 cameras around the vehicle so it can see everything. And they're also going to have 5 radar sensors and ultrasonic sensors showing around the vehicle to aid with them as well. Which, as we know, Tesla got away from that, and it kind of made their self-driving system a little worse, in my opinion. So I'm glad to see that they're using radars, because I think that's the best way to go. Don't cheap out on your customer, giving them a worse performance than what they maybe originally had. And I like to see that from Rivian. They care about their customer's coming first. Also with Rivian, there's a lot of accessories. So they've got like tents that go on the roof of the vehicle. They've got bike racks. They've got these racks that will go in the back of in the hitch of the R2 that plants can go in, and pottery and dirt and different things like that if you hunt, game. So the amount of accessories is going to be pretty good for this vehicle. And then the last thing is that they are trying to pull this production of this vehicle up a little bit from what they originally were thinking. They're going to start building this in Normal, Illinois, where they build the R1 series, and they are expecting to launch in early of 2026. So first buyers or reservation holders will be able to pick their vehicles up hopefully in the early first half of 2026. I reserved mine and I can't wait to get it. And then they will go on to their Georgia facility where they're building this really massive manufacturing plant down in Georgia, and they'll start building this. And then we got a surprise, right? So everyone is expecting R2 to be revealed, and then they come out and reveal the R3. So as you can see, this is more like a crossover and what they consider their crossover. And it's got a little bit of a hatchback design to the rear of it. It's a very like 80s, compact car. Think Ford Escort, Audi Quattro. And so it's built off of the same architecture as the R2, so they'll have some components that will mix and match, which will help bring the cost of the R3 down. And it's going to be built in their Georgia facility as well. So what I'm thinking is this car is probably going to be priced lower, and it's going to have good similar range because they said it's going to get the same motor capacities, potentially the same battery packs. And so, it's going to be a really a multiple use vehicle here that has good ground clearance, but it's just a smaller overall crossover package, right? We don't know much details about it other than that. We know basically the fundamentals of the vehicle is based off of the R2. It's a smaller in package, so you can expect it probably to be less in cost. But we don't know when it's going to be produced. They just said that it would be produced after the R2. They did mention that there was some discussion on which one to produce first, the R3 versus the R2, because people really like the R3. So what that tells me is that it's probably not going to be produced very far after the R2. I would expect maybe a year later they would relaunch the R3. And then what's even funnier here is they surprised us with a third version, which is basically just another R3, but is the R3X. And when this thing came out on stage, I was quite giddy about it, because if you grew up watching Class B rally in the 1990s, you would see all these 1980s compact cars that were Class B rally cars, driving, just, it really, it looks like a lot of fun. Came out with these rally style tires, high ground clearance. They said it'd be tri-motor, so it's gonna be super fast. If it's under 3 seconds, 0 to 60 for the R2 with these three motor variants, then this car is going to go faster than that because it's going to be lighter and it's going to have more performance structure. So they came out with it drifting around a dirt track just like a rally car back in the day, and to me, I thought this was so cool. A lot of people don't like the look. I really like it. I don't know if it's something I would get, because we've got a family and things like that, and but it's something that maybe I would get in the future if I need to. We'll be getting the R2 for sure, 100%. We're probably going to trade our Model Y in for it, and I'll probably keep my Model 3, which means maybe the R3X would be the replacement of my Model 3. I don't know. We'll have to see. We've got 2 years, guys. So 2 years until this car comes out. So there's going to be so much change in the EV world. So please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And yeah, follow me here on YouTube and on X and all the different social medias. They're linked down in the description. Keep up with all the EV news. I pay attention to this really well, and I like to make videos for this stuff. It's kind of a hobby and I really enjoy it. So if you enjoyed the video, please like, and we'll see you on the next one.